sometimes spiritual growth is less about spiritual disciplines like prayer and Bible reading and more about making an honest assessment of your own character. In Romans it says, think of yourself with sober judgment. So the question I want to start with by asking you is, how Christ-like are you? When other people see you, do they see Jesus and his character? When non-Christians see you and they see your behavior, are they inclined to draw closer to Jesus, to investigate who this guy is? Do you display the fruit of the Spirit? Or instead, does your character sometimes have sort of an antithetical theme to it, antithetical to what true Christian character ought to look like? Some of us are just Christian jerks.
Hey, he's being a jerk!
He's being a jerk!
Christian jerks are a problem for a couple of reasons. We're a poor witness for God to a world that needs to be redeemed. We're an ineffective tool in God's hands. And also, it creates disunity within the church. Now, the disunity part, Christians versus Christians, I'm going to talk about in a later episode. Today, I'm going to focus more about what it means to be a Christian jerk, why it's a problem, even though it may seem obvious, and what it does to our witness to a world that doesn't know him. So what is a Christian jerk? I'm not talking about your ordinary, everyday jerk, right? Anybody can be a jerk. It doesn't take that much work, right? It's prideful, arrogant, conceited. Christian jerks are unique. They're jerks exactly because they're Christian.
What?
Okay, that might sound harsh. Here's what I'm trying to get at. Christian jerks have a sense of pride about the fact that they know God, they know the Bible, and therefore they think others ought to be deferring to them. They think they have a leg up on the discussions happening around them. And they expect others to listen to their enlightened views. To the person who thinks that he understood Christian doctrine better than the apostles, Paul said this: he has an unhealthy craving for controversy and for quarrels about words, which produce envy, dissension, slander, evil suspicions. Christian jerks have attitudes along the lines of, I know God and you don't, or I know God better than you do, so you should be deferring to my views. I have a better understanding of morality, and you don't understand it well enough. I understand right and wrong, and you don't. I understand what's best for all people, and you don't. Characteristics of jerks could be along the lines of emphasizing truth over exhibiting the fruit of the Spirit. Once again, not letting things go when they're in the middle of a discussion. They just can't let it go. They can't concede any points. They can't walk away. They have to have the last word. They're dismissive of anybody who has a view that is out of alignment with their own views, defiant in the face of opposing views. They condemn those who sin differently than they do. Why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take out the speck that is in your brother's eye. So a Christian jerk sees the log in their eye and the speck in your eye as two totally different kinds of wood. Okay, that metaphor didn't work very well. All right, what I'm getting at is it's their sin, whatever that might be, and your sin are two totally different things. And there are reasons that I'm struggling with my issues. But you need to get right. There's no mercy for somebody who isn't having right behavior, right? No special circumstances, unique limitations for them. No, you need to do what's right.
I know some Christian jerks who should watch this video.
It's really easy for us to point to other people we've seen and heard and say, Christian jerk. But the whole point of this channel is getting you to grow spiritually. And on this particular episode, I want you to be thinking about whether any of these things, even in some small way, might actually describe you. Christian jerks don't say things like, I don't know, I don't know the answer to that. Or, good point. Or, I need to think about this more. No, they've got a ready answer, and it's based on their understanding of truth. The average Christian jerk doesn't really exhibit that meekness. That's one of the items in the Beatitude. They're more combative. They're not a peacemaker. They tend to provoke division, all in the name of defending truth. Christian jerks often categorize people into groups, like those, for instance, they think aren't really Christian because they believe this, or because they don't believe that. Joyce Meyer has an interesting quote I like. It's, "We look at ourselves through rose-colored glasses. We look at others through a microscope." And Christian jerks take that to the extreme. Nothing they say is wrong. Some examples of where you might find a Christian jerk: those who have a microphone. And by that I mean like preachers, talk show hosts, people who have a podcast, politicians. Often these are people who want to be heard. Other places you might find them would be on social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, any of the other sites that the kids nowadays are using that I don't know anything about. And they're always commenting on something, and their comments are sarcastic or snarky, sometimes ridiculing or belittling. Sometimes they're mocking people. They're most certainly correcting them.
What about Christian jerks who talk about other people behind their backs?
What about you? Are there people that you know that you speak about in a negative way? So, family that you don't like, or friends, your boss, your pastor. I'm talking about what is essentially negative gossip. Or even people that you don't know, celebrities. Do you talk about celebrities or politicians with other people and talk about the ridiculous negative behavior, terrible behavior that they have? All right, this is actually all a form of gossip. Does this sound anything like you? We may think that because these people are in the news, because all of the things, the horrible things they do are already public knowledge, that it's okay to talk about them, but it's not becoming a Christian. We ought not to be doing things the way the world does, and that includes talking in a negative way about people, even if their behavior is poor. Now, how is this possible? Where is this coming from? How is it that Christians can behave so poorly? Well, it comes from pride. That should be no surprise to you. The problem with Christians is that pride often masquerades as confidence. Like you might hear a Christian jerk say something like, "I'm not arrogant, I'm not prideful, I'm confident in Christ." These sort of characteristics give us a really poor witness to the world. Not many people are going to be interested in checking out who Jesus is when they look at a Christian jerk and think, if that's what it means to be a Christian, I want no part of it.
Fine, you win. I'm a Christian jerk. Now what?
So let's talk a little bit about what to do about jerkiness that might be in your life. It matters how you act. People are not reading Bibles. They're reading Christians. They're watching your behavior, how you respond to interruptions and inconvenience and problems in your life, in addition to what you say about the issues that are relevant today and how you say it. All of that makes a difference to the world, to those who are not Christian and who might possibly be thinking about, what does it mean to be Christian? Who is this person? Jesus. Your tone of voice, your body language, all of these things convey whether you care. If people think you don't care, any messages you give are going to be falling on deaf ears. And for those of you who think that growing an understanding of spiritual truths is the same as growing in Christian maturity, often not the case. The Bible places an emphasis on character over wisdom. Why? Because character is an indication of how Christ-like we are and how well we know God. So, some things that you can do to diffuse some of the jerkiness that might be in your soul. My first suggestion is stop talking. Now, I know you're thinking, what do you mean stop talking? What I mean is there will be cases in which somebody is saying something or doing something, somebody right in front of you or somebody on social media or in the news, and you feel compelled to say something. And my suggestion to you is consider whether that's really necessary. Part of the problem with Christian jerks is that they jump on everything and they feel compelled to address every issue. Consider that the most important doctrines in the Christian faith are those that are described in the Apostles' Creed or the Nicene Creed. Those are core truths. Anything else that's not in those creeds is secondary. They may be important, but they're not critically important. To the pure, all things are pure. This verse is sort of a opposite of the devil's advocate. This is looking at people and whatever they say, assuming their intentions are good. It's looking past the words they say and the deeds they make and saying, well, I don't know exactly where it's coming from, but I'm going to assume that they're coming from a good place, that they want to do good, want to do right. That's tough. But this verse says that those who are pure in heart think this way about other people. They see things as pure despite what appearances might be. In humility, count others more significant than yourselves. Other translations say we ought to count others as better than ourselves. Christian jerks don't do that. If you do have an issue with people, with what they're saying, their wrong views, it's also really important, if you don't want to look like you're a Christian jerk, to address those issues in private with them. This is one of the biggest problems with Christian jerks. Whatever they're saying in a public forum. If you see something that you think somebody is doing or saying wrong, and you really want to make an issue out of it, you go to them privately and talk to them. You don't comment on Facebook. You don't comment in in the comments in YouTube on a public podcast. Ultimately, this is all about letting things go and letting God be God. Yes, sometimes there are times when we have to defend truth, but if you're defending truth in a way that people say, that's just a Christian jerk, then I'm not sure you're really advancing God's agenda on the earth. That's it for today. The next episode is going to get to how Christian jerks actually create a problem within the church. And even that makes for a poor witness to the rest of the world. Thanks. See you next time.